What is up, everybody? It is Og here, back with another video, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a new gold farm. So there's been a perfect storm of events that's happened recently with changes to WoW and new patches coming out and things like that. That's created a really unique and really good opportunity to make a ton of gold with really low requirements. So we're going to be going over it today in the video so you guys can jump in and make as much gold as possible. Before we get started though, if you guys are enjoying these videos, definitely hit that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell next to it so you guys can be notified when these videos go live and get a jump start on the farms. All right, let's jump into it. So as many people know, Naxx just came out, and one of the hardest bosses in Naxx is going to be Lotheb, at least for the early on kind of part before you get to Saf and Kel'Thuzad. So Lotheb is going to be a very high consumable fight of one specific consumable, and that is Greater Shadow Protection Potions. So if you look at WoWGamepedia.com, you can see that they recommend 3 Greater Shadow Protections per fight. Most people are saying you need full world buffs when you go in to kill Lotheb. If we take a look at the thought of how many people might be wiping on Lotheb, Greater Shadow Protection Potions then skyrocket in price. In order to make a Greater Shadow Protection Potion, you need Shadow Oil. And Shadow Oil is made of Fade Leaf and Graves Moss, but you can see that there's not much Shadow Oil available, which means the majority of them being made are going to be made by Grave Moss and Fade Leaf farming, which opens up a very unique opportunity to make a ton of gold. Now, the second kind of change that has recently happened is the fact that instance lockouts are no longer account wide. So Grave Moss can be found over in the wetlands. You can find it within the graveyard and things like that. But one of the best places to find it is actually SMGY. So here we are in SM, and I'm using Azanza. You don't have to. It's just going to help speed up your runs a little bit. But definitely good classes are going to be rogues, hunters, anything with a movement speed, right? Amplifier. So Blink for mages is good. But basically you need to have herbalism. Now, depending on the herbs that you want to get, you want to have different levels of herbalism, but I'd recommend having 170 if we're going to go do this. It doesn't take too long to get to 170, just a few hours of open world farming that we can get there, and you'll get a ton of herb levels through this as well. But within GY, there's going to be 3 different herb spawns. There's going to be Grave Moss and King's Blood. Now, all 3 could be one of the types. That can happen, or you can have a mixed bag. Typically, you're going to have a mixed bag. Whenever you find Grave Moss, though, it's typically going to have between 2 and 3 Grave Moss. It can have 1, but most of the time I see between 2 and 3. The King's Blood, depending on your server, may or may not be worth looting. For me, personally, I'm not really worrying about it too much, and so I even second guess myself here on whether or not to go get this. But for the purpose of the video, I did end up going and grabbing it. But you don't really need to get the King's Blood, probably, just because they are cheap. And it added probably an additional 25 seconds to this run, which I would have needed to have in general. But if King's Blood are a decent cost on your server, might as well go grab them just for some extra money. Once you finish this instance, the beautiful thing about SM is that every single one of the instances are tied together and treated as one single instance, which means that if we run through all the instances, we're not getting 4 lockouts, but in reality, we're only getting 1 lockout. And because of the new change to the lockout system, that means that just that tune is locked out. So what we can do is we can rerun these SMs over and over and over, just resetting each time, get 5 lockouts on one tune, swap to our next tune, get 5 lockouts, swap to our next tune, get 5 lockouts. That means that we can do 15 runs per hour in SM. So that's the GY. Once you're done with GY, you can go to Cath if you want. Now, Cath is going to have Goldthorn and it's going to have Life Root. Probably don't recommend going there too much. I mean, the Goldthorn isn't bad, but for the long hallway that you got to run down and everything like that, might not be worth it if you have 3 herbalists. If you have 2 herbalists, definitely go for it just because it's just some extra time and you're probably going to hit lockouts anyways with 2 herbalists, so you might as well go for it. But if you have 3, probably just go straight over into Armory. Once you get into Armory and you come through this first kind of cathedral or gateway, whatever, hallway, you get out into this courtyard. And this courtyard has 1 Fade Leaf right there, right? And I believe that that's always going to be a Fade Leaf. That mob had a 1% chance of resisting my Nova, by the way. But you grab that and you get out. Fade Leaf is typically going to be between 1 and 2, typically. Still really good money, though. So Fade Leaf is gonna be really good money. And additionally, over in Library, we're also going to get a Fade Leaf. So Grave Moss is only going to come from the GY. Fade Leaf is going to be from Armory and then from Library as well. So now we go over into Library. In Library, same kind of thing. Walk down the hallway. You can skip without aggroing any of these mobs at all. I accidentally aggroed some mobs in the courtyard because of the position of the Hound and the Beastmaster. Typically, they're not going to be in the way, but sometimes they are. And so I ended up having to kill these packs, which is unfortunate, but as a mage, pretty quick and easy. Rogues can vanish. Hunters, you can just kill the packs. They only have about like 3.5k health, not too much. But you take out the packs, and then you get that other Fade Leaf. And so now, just from these runs, really quickly, we're at about 3 minutes, 15 seconds. So you can kind of see that with 3 tunes, we can hit lockout in about 50 minutes, allowing us to get those 15 runs of all those different items. Now, we end up going back into Cathedral just so I can kind of show you where you'd want to go. I wouldn't recommend going to the top section of Cathedral just because it's going to add a little bit of time. But maybe if you want to go to the bottom section of Cathedral to be able to get those, you could definitely go for those. But let's look at some of the herbs that we actually got. So from that run, we were able to get 3 Grave Moss, 1 Grave Moss, 1 King's Blood, 2 Fade Leaf, 1 Fade Leaf. Those were each of our individual herbing, loot. So we did get a Grave Moss with 1. Typically, we're going to get 2 or 3, as I said. But overall, we were able to get these quantities of these individual herbs, giving us a total gold loot of 11.76 gold, 15 runs per hour, 176 gold per hour, right? Now, where did I get these average prices? Well, basically, I went onto each of the 4 servers that I predominantly play on. And so we're going to talk Bigglesworth, Whitemane, Fairbanks, and Westfall. So Fairbanks, I don't really play on much, but it had, a tune near an auction house. So I wanted to get the best average prices. And so I went to each of these servers. I grabbed the average prices of each of these different herbs to basically figure out the average price of each server, just so I can give you guys a holistic kind of view. Because some servers are going to be a lot more expensive than others, and others are going to be a lot cheaper than the other servers. From that research, this is what I garnered. Overall, we have basically these prices that we got for each of these different herbs, giving you an average price, which we use in our calculation. So over here, we have the average price, and that is then how we calculate this. So your server could be higher or lower. What you can do is you can just make a similar kind of, spreadsheet and just take the cost per the herb times the amount that you're going to get, and that can give you the total as well. To give a more kind of accurate representation though, because we did get 2 Grave Moss spawns, which was very good, but typically we're not going to get 2, we're going to get 1.5. I did want to give an average kind of result. So here I changed up the formulas a little bit. So I did 1.5 Grave Moss on the average times 2 per each Grave Moss that we're going to typically get. So that's just between 1 and 3. Fade Leaf, 2 per average on each run for a total of 1.5 on average per Fade Leaf because we're typically getting between 1 and 2. And then King's Blood, 1.5 times 1.5 because of 1.5 average for each run of GY that we're doing, and then the 1.5 average of the actual loots. So this is not using Cathedral at all. If you want to use Cathedral as well, then we can, factor in Gold Thorns, but I skip it personally. Up to you what you want to do. Overall, that still nets 155 gold per hour with 3 tunes with herbalism. Now, obviously, if you have 2 tunes, it's probably going to be about 100 hour, 1 tune, 50 gold per hour. But then obviously it's going to take you a lot less time, right? Because we could just do these instances really quick. And once we're done with those runs, I did run over into Cathedral just to show you guys where the spawns are going to be. So there's going to be 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom of the waterfall. But it is the long hallway kind of to run down to get to here. So it does add a little bit of time. Overall, though, once you're done with all the runs, you basically run outside the instance and you reset the instance. Now, you can reset the instance one of 2 ways. You can reset it by right-clicking your portrait frame and clicking Reset All Instances, but there's also a script that I'll put up on the screen that you guys can basically just use. So you can just write it into a macro and then just click that macro with that script and it just resets the instances. Once you reset, ready to go right back in. So the SM strategy is great. However, eventually people are going to get more comfortable with Naxx. People are going to have it on farm, and then people won't need as many greater shadow protection potions. So the price is probably going to peel back a little bit, and especially if people start farming it, price might peel back a little bit. So another good opportunity to still take advantage of the new changes to the lockouts is going to be Mara. So here we are with the Mara portal. We basically just clicked on the scepter. You're going to need to get the scepter first. And so if you're curious about how to get the scepter of Celebras, it's basically just a quest to go through the orange side and the purple side of Mara. Once you get it though, you can spawn right there at that waterfall. There's going to be 1 spawn almost all the time in either this left location, right location, or here in the center. And there's not 1 right now, which is wild. But most of the time there will be 1 right there, but you're going to be able to get typically 3 blindweed in this first kind of area. Now, you're going to be able to get blindweed and ghost mushroom. Ghost mushroom used to sell for a lot more, but it's kind of coming back a little bit in the price, and you can only get 1 per each herb. So the ghost mushroom isn't really going to be your top priority. Blindweed, on the other hand, will be. Am I like locked right? Oh, am I still? No. It had to have auto reset, so I don't think I reset the instance. So let's talk about how to reset the instance. Well, let's assume that we had just looted everything and we didn't come into a fully looted instance. We're now ready to reset. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna log off on this tune. You will need 2 accounts for this or a friend. You can also use your own account, but it's gonna take 2 minutes per lockout, or per reset rather. So here we log out on this tune, hop over to our other tune, hit our reset macro. It's been reset, log back on to our farming tune, and we're back in the dungeon. Now the nice thing is that you can keep all of your farming tunes and this other alt in one group, and you can just hop back and forth between the 5 of them if you wanted to, or you could just do, each one over and over through their respective runs, then jump to the next tune. So if you have 3 tunes, this is gonna be great, potentially even 4. Here we go. Now there's Blindweed over on the side. That's what we're talking about. So as I was saying, the Blindweed is gonna be one of the primary ways you're going to be making the money. The Ghost Mushroom used to be really good, but it's not as good anymore. It used to actually go for, I think, as high as like 2 gold or 2 gold 50 silver, but you can see that Blindweed is kind of similar to Ghost Mushroom. So we're going to be getting between 2 and 3 Blindweed typically. Of course, we're going to occasionally get 1 per each of these herbs. There's going to be 3 Blindweed herbs that you should run into each time before you kind of reset the dungeon, right? And so typically they're going to be up here on the top, down here behind this pack, or behind this next pack over here. Careful to note that I would recommend running around the left side of these Demetrions, right here. That way you don't aggro. If you go to the right, you will aggro this one. If you do aggro the mobs though, there is a reset spot right here. So you come over, you jump behind this rock, and then this is a reset spot right there. So you just wait there until they're done despawning, or done resetting. You can jump along this wall to not aggro this guy as well if you want to skip this guy. Again, not always going to work. Or you can go over to the left side. But here we can see we aggroed these mobs. We're going to wait for them to reset. And now we're going to start our run again. So I'm just going to blink through these mobs so you can run around the right side there. And then this guy, you just want to jump up along the left side here. You can potentially aggro him as well. And there could be a Blindweed right there, but you can always reset if you need to. There's another reset over here, which I will also show you as well, in case you're having trouble resetting with that other path. But we have this other Blindweed up at the top, so we're going to go over and grab this Blindweed, jump up along the wall, and you'll actually kind of scale the wall. Get this Blindweed here. And then this is where you could, in theory, reset the dungeon if you wanted to. We're only a couple minutes into the run itself. We did get 1 from that, but that's 5 Blindweed. So at the current price of Blindweed, that's about 4 to 5 gold-ish. And it took about 2 to 3 minutes. So this whole entire thing with 3 tunes could even just take probably about 45 minutes as well. And you're not going to net as much gold because we're looking at about 5 gold a run compared to the previous amount, but you will be able to net a good amount of gold. If you want to reset at a future point, we can see that we aggro these mobs here. You just jump off the side right here, and this is a reset spot. There's also potentially going to be a Blindweed down here as well. You can see this Ghost Mushroom down here though, you can get as well. And then from there, I would definitely reset the instance. Don't run down the rest of the hall because you're probably not going to get many Ghost Mushroom or anything like that. So once you get to this point, go grab that last Ghost Mushroom and then reset, rinse and repeat, run the dungeon again, and keep on making that money. All right, everyone, that wraps up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe and leave a like and a comment below to let me know so. And if you guys have any other ideas for any other videos, please let me know in the comments below. Also, check out the description for the Twitch where I do all this live, and also for my Twitter and Discord where you guys can be notified of any future updates and when I'm going to go live on stream. So I'll see you guys in the next video.